To make it count, you have to accept that you are going to fall. You have to accept that you are going to get hurt. You have to accept that you are going to feel almost shame at some point. But once you get up and dust yourself off and remember that that's who you are and that was your original goal,
Yes.
nothing can touch you.
Welcome back to The Pour. My name is Father Christian, where faith and culture are served together. Today, we are going to be talking about finding your purpose and passion. And once you find that purpose and passion, how do you form the resiliency to take on all the resistance that might be coming your way when you're in the trenches? And today, we got an amazing guest who's going to talk about that. She is a conservationist. She is a woman of God. She is just an incredible human being that beams with light and is a little bit of a superstar right here. Her name is Jackie Thurlow-Lippisch. Yay!
Hi, Christian.
The queen of the water. The one who people look to when you're thinking about clean water in your neighborhood. She refused to even walk here. She had to take a boat to get to this studio. Every single episode, we start with a drink. That's why it's called The Pour. The studio staff here, all two of us, decided what would be a great drink for our guests. So today, because you are the queen of the water, we had to go in that way. We went with Nature's Nectar's version of 100% pure coconut water, since we're here in Florida.
Awesome.
Okay, this is not from concentrate. We got it from Aldi because our budget's incredible.
Fantastic.
See what you think.
Thank you.
Okay. You want a little bit of lot, or is it
That's
sort of like
good.
wine where
Thank
you just take a little sip? You have refreshed us as a community, and there's a purity to you, and I know how much of your soul you find through your work with water. So it just seemed to go with something very pure and natural that comes right here from
Thank
the ground.
you. Are we allowed to toast if it's
Cheers.
not alcoholic? It's outstanding.
Right? I went on Wikipedia because you know that's really true. And it did say that 71% of the world is water. Florida has a lot of water. So wouldn't you want to go conserve water in Arizona where there's like a desert and be like, guys, you need to be careful about your water.
You want to conserve all water. There is not much fresh water on the earth.
But here in Florida, can't we just it's like in the air. Can't we just go like this and get more water? I mean, it helps with our hair. Like your hair is probably
It
naturally
really
curly
makes
from
my
humidity.
hair frizzy. The bottom line, Christian, is you must conserve water. You must honor water. You must treasure water. You must be careful with water. It is a limited resource.
Now you know why she's on this show. Throughout your whole life, you've been a part of so many different organizations that have been helpful for this fight. One of them that caught my eye is the Guardians of Martin County.
Yes.
Do you guys get to put on the costumes of the Guardians of the Galaxy and kind of put on masks and stuff and have like a little tree that runs around with you who just says,
How did you know that?
well, I know you guys are trying to speak to the younger generation.
No, we don't do that. But it's a catchy name,
Okay.
and it's true. You have to be a guardian. You have to watch and make sure that people don't destroy what is sacred.
There was a moment that you can say when you really feel like God was saying, the water is where you're going to be called to. Can you explain that to me?
It goes way back to when I was 16 years old, growing up in Martin County. My mother and I had serious struggles. She sent me to live with a lady named Tilly White, who lived on the island, on Hutchison Island. And mind you, in this period of time, there are really not that many people. There were only a few houses out there. Wow. I had gone to church my whole life here, St. Mary's, but I had never really been exposed to the Word of God. And my mom, she thought these people were a little bit too evangelical for St. Mary's kind of taste. What just really touched me was how much they seemed to love me. I could relate to the idea of being born again. I wanted to be born again.
Because
I didn't feel happy. I felt like I was 16 years old. I was struggling. It's just how I felt.
Yeah.
And I felt like I didn't have a purpose. One of the main things that made an impression on me was Tilly took a number of us and we were baptized in the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
I had been baptized as a child in the church, but I didn't even remember it.
Yeah, you double dip now.
One of the big things that we spoke of that day and talked about was baptism and renewal and resilience through Christ. I do not talk about this, but if anybody ever asks me about it, I will say the born-again Christian experience that I had in my life at 16 years old never left me. It totally touched me. I came after time right back to St. Mary's because this is my home.
Sure.
And this is my love. But I really liked being baptized in the ocean. And it gave me a connection to water, nature, God's creation. It gave me an anchor. It gave me a love. And I always knew that when I could, I would fight for water and I would fight for nature. And that's how I would fight for God.
That all came from that baptismal moment?
It planted the seed. I felt like a better person. I didn't get married till I was 39. Okay. My husband is almost 10 years older than me.
Okay.
We tried to have children. I always thought I would have children.
Yes.
I thought that would be the meaning of my life. And when we realized we couldn't have children, I had to have, but a come to Jesus meeting with myself of like what I was going to do. And so I kind of went back through and a lot of prayer and a lot of thought and a lot of walking, like what was it that I wanted to do before life totally took me over?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it was water. And I was like, I'm going to run for this position. Sewell's Point is right in the middle of the St. Lucie River, Indian River Lagoon.
Okay.
Our water is trashed and disgusting because they are abusing it. And I can fight for something that will help everyone.
Yeah. You had a career in real estate and a lot of other things. And then
Teaching.
You got a graduate degree in teaching and Sprechen Sie Deutsch. And you're sitting there teaching German. And then God says, okay, now you're prepared. Yeah. Now you're ready to go fight.
That's right.
I mean, Jesus at 30, that's when
Interesting.
That's when God says, okay, game on.
Wow.
So game is on for you. The water is clearly something that calls your name. God said, this is where the fight is at. And you run into legislation, which is God bless you, because that's where stuff gets done. One
of the images I've used a lot when I'm speaking is Jesus in the temple when he turned over the tables.
Okay.
Because of the hypocrisy of Jesus' love, but he is willing to get mad. He's willing to get upset. That was a story that really spoke to me because it was about money.
Yes.
Instead of about
adoration and sacrifice and offering to God, animals. Yes.
And if you look at water, they make a lot of money off of it too. I just picture him turning over the tables and all the coins or whatever they were called, like rolling around, and the people like, oh! It makes an impression when a person who doesn't act like that all of a sudden loses it.
Yes, when Tom behind the camera loses it, it's a pretty big thing because Tom's pretty like.
He is very mellow.
Did you find water to always be a place we could at least all agree on here in Florida?
I wouldn't say we could always agree on, but I would say that it was always something that both sides recognized as valuable.
When you're in these fights and you're trying to go for some legislation and then you hit a total roadblock, it didn't work, you put all this time and energy into it, you get the no. How did you just keep going and say, I got to get up the next day after I lick my wounds and keep going?
Sure. I learned the hard way that just because you're a good person doesn't mean you're saved. And what I mean by that is when I was on the South Florida Water Management District, and I think I'm very well known for being kind to all people, a piece of legislation came up from the Florida legislature, not coming from the South Florida Water Management District at all. And part of that legislation was very anti-water for the South Florida Water Management District. It was very in favor of agriculture.
So you made a comment.
I did. I'm saying what I want to say.
Sure.
I am not going to bend over for these people and pretend that what they're saying is what they're proposing has any good in it at all. You know how things are today? They don't just push it a little bit, the politics, they push it all the way. These people, they had been saying, get Thurlow out of there.
Oh, you had a target on you.
Get her out of there.
Because she's
too effective.
You were getting stuff done.
But they didn't like what I was doing. The president of the Senate, the second most powerful person in Tallahassee, decided that I would not be reappointed. I felt like I did what I was supposed to do.
Look at this. I love how she has like this Bible from like 1936.
I know. That's my grandmother's
This is
Bible.
beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful?
God bless you, Dorothy. Do you regret speaking up?
No, I don't regret speaking up, but I must be honest that I was crushed. I had to go through a lot of thought and prayer to bring me back to why did I say I was going to do this in the first place, which was my connection to the Holy Spirit and protecting God's creation. To make it count, you have to accept that you are going to fall. You have to accept that you are going to get hurt. You have to accept that you are going to feel almost shame at some point. But once you get up and dust yourself off and remember why that's who you are and that was your original goal.
Yes.
To be true to something, nothing can touch you.
So what do you say to someone right now who is on their own walk and they're finding their own cause that they're fighting for right now, and maybe they've taken the hit, maybe they've gotten it. It could be on a much smaller scale. They're a leader of maybe an organization. They've had to make a tough call. They're taking the slings and arrows right now. They're taking a bit of a beating, but they know they made the right call.
Be kind to the person across the aisle. Be kind to the person who's a different political party than you. Be kind to someone who you think is immoral. Be kind. Say hello. Shake their hand. Ask them how their family's doing. Find out something. Everybody has something good.
Yeah.
And then when you are crushed, you know that you are in good standing with all of those people that you were kind to. And that's what will rebuild you. And that's what will rebuild me. I wouldn't say I was depressed or on the ground, but I was depressed and on the ground.
Yeah.
If you're doing good work, something will happen
That's
to
right.
you.
Yeah, there you go.
Something will happen to you.
Yeah, because you're pushing
Yeah.
against a certain force, and the
Yeah.
force is going to push back. So what's next now for you?
I don't know how to answer that question. It's in God's hands. And
Yep.
I have to say that even with all the passion or what I want my purpose to be in life, I think that this last year, what's most important to me are the people in my life.
Yeah.
Today is the anniversary of my father's death.
Oh my gosh.
3 years.
Wow.
You were the preacher that
Yeah.
did such an incredible job. When our lives are over, I think I'll be thinking about my husband and my dad and my mom and my family more than anything. And so the water is important, but God's message to me this past year was, don't forget about the most important thing,
Yes.
which is your family, because that is living water. That is your life.
We also ask this of every single guest who comes on here, and I'm really curious to see what you think. Knowing the upcoming generations and how everything's changing right now with generationally in this country, where do you think the church, not same areas, but the church in general, is going to be in 25 years?
I think you'll have the church, but there will be a lot of small groups or just a couple of prayer, online groups, Bible studies. I guess it will be decentralized is my thought, but I think, for the lack of a better word, the mother churches will always be intact.
Yes.
But I think some of their best work will be happening in
Intimate gatherings.
Yes,
much smaller
intimate
gatherings.
gatherings.
Yes. Jackie, I thank you for coming on here and sharing your heart,
Yeah.
sharing your fight,
Sure.
Sharing your losses,
Sure.
and then inspiring us to expect the losses. And I think sometimes the reason why resiliency gets low is because we're just expecting it for the victories. And so then when the losses come, we're not prepared for it. But often those so-called losses or the challenges are really because you're doing the good work. Well, God be with you, my sister. Thank you for coming on
Thank
The Pour.
you.
You
Thank
all,
you.
please do subscribe,
Thank
like,
you.
and share this video for anyone out there who is looking to find their purpose or passion. Just share this with someone right now who really would love to hear this, especially if they're maybe they've taken some slings and arrows and they need to hear Jackie's story. We're going to see you next week here on The Pour. God bless you. Bye-bye. Wait, this is not a real brick wall?
Oh my gosh, it's not real.
Oh my God!
They-
Stop!